everybody, it's Miss Marie, and I'm here today to tell you a little bit about our 100 books every kindergartner should know. It's a program that Miss Alyssa and I started about a couple years ago, and we went through and we picked books from various lists that were considered really important books for children to know, either for school preparation or just to enhance their understanding and appreciation of literature, children's literature. So we picked some classics and then we added some new ones that we thought were really, really special. And we came up with this list, and we turned the list into a scratch-off poster, which we have available at the library. And the books there are in alphabetical order, and as you read them, you scratch them up, but you don't have to read them in any order. You get whatever one you can find. And the list is also available on our website under Early Literacy as a PDF that you could print out if you don't have a chance to get over here and get a copy of the poster yet. And it has all the 100 books in alphabetical order. You can cross them off or scratch, get the scratch-off poster. And it's just a really great way to keep families busy and keep getting kids ready for kindergarten. And even if they're in kindergarten, these are still great books to be reading with them. They're not books really meant for them to read by themselves. They're for an adult to read to a child or an older sibling to read to a child. So I'm going to start off with one that's a classic. Actually, it's on many, many lists. It's called Mike Mulligan and His Steam Shovel. And the story and pictures are by Virginia Lee Burton. And this book was published a very long time ago. Let's see. It's by Houghton Mifflin Company, and it was published originally in 1939. So it has a kind of a fun, old-fashioned feel to it. And it kind of is still relevant today, actually, because, well, we find out what happens to a steam shovel that's not useful anymore, and maybe what we can do with things that we don't necessarily need anymore. So, and there's the first page, and I'll read that to you. Mike Mulligan and His Steam Shovel. Mike Mulligan had a steam shovel, a beautiful red steam shovel. Her name was Mary Ann. Mike Mulligan was very proud of Mary Ann. He always said that she could dig as much in a day as 100 men could dig in a week, but he had never been quite sure this was true. Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann had been digging together for years and years. Mike Mulligan took such good care of Mary Ann, she never grew old. It was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann and some others who dug the great canals for the big boats to sail through. It was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann and some others who cut through the high mountains so that trains could get through. It was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann and some others who lowered the hills and straightened the curves to make the long highways for the automobiles. Those are some old cars. Oh, and I think this is a character that appears in another book, The Little House. It was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann and some others who smoothed out the ground and filled in the holes to make the landing fields for the airplanes. And it was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann and some others who dug the deep holes for the cellars of the tall skyscrapers in the big cities. When people used to stop and watch them, Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann used to dig a little faster and a little better. The more people stopped, the faster and better they dug. Some days, they would keep as many as 37 trucks busy taking the dirt away that they had dug. They like to show off a little. Then along came the new gasoline shovels and the new electric shovels and the new diesel shovels, and they took the jobs away from the steam shovels. Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann were very sad. And you can see on Mary Ann's face, she's very sad. And here it says, "No steam shovels wanted." Aww. All the other steam shovels were being sold for junk or left out in old gravel pits to rust and fall apart. Mike Mulligan loved Mary Ann. He couldn't do that to her. He had taken such good care of her that she could still dig as much in a day as 100 men could dig in a week. At least he thought she could, but he wasn't quite sure. Everywhere they went, the new gas shovels and the new electric shovels and the new diesel motor shovels all had jobs. No one wanted Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann anymore. Then one day, Mike read a newspaper that the town of Popperville was going to build a new town hall. "We are going to dig the cellar of that town hall," said Mike to Mary Ann, and off they started. So what are they going to do? Let's see. They left the canals and the railroads and the highways and the airports and the big cities. where no one wanted them anymore, and away they went out into the country. They crawled along slowly up the hills and down the hills till they came to the little town of Popperville. And somebody still has a horse and buggy in Popperville. When they got there, they found that the selectmen who were deciding who should dig the cellar for the new town. Mike Mulligan spoke to Henry B. Swap, one of the selectmen. "I heard," he said, "that you are going to build a new town hall. Mary and Ann and I can dig that cellar in just one day." "What?" said Henry B. Swap. "Dig a cellar in a day? It would take 100 men at least a week to dig the cellar for our new town hall." "Sure," said Mike, "but Mary Ann can dig as much in a day as 100 men can dig in a week," though he had not been quite sure that this was true. So then he added, "If we can't do it, you won't have to pay." Henry B. Swap thought that this would be an easy way to get part of the cellar dug for nothing, so he smiled in a rather mean way and gave the job of digging the cellar of the new town hall to Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann. They started in early the next morning, just as the sun was coming up. Soon a little boy came along. "Do you think you will be finished by sundown?" he said to Mike Mulligan. "Sure," said Mike. "If you stay and watch us, we always work faster and better when someone is watching us." So the little boy stayed and watched. Then Mrs. McGillicuddy, Henry B. Swap, and the town constable came over to see what was happening, and they stayed to watch. Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann dug a little faster and a little better. This gave the little boy a good idea. He ran off and told the postman in the morning mail, the telegraph boy on his bicycle, the milkman with his cart and horse, the doctor on his way home, the farmer and his family coming into town for the day, and they all stopped and stayed to watch. That made Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann dig a little faster and a little better. They finished the first corner neat and square, but the sun was getting higher. Clang, 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 the fire department arrived. They had seen the smoke and thought there was a fire. Then the little boy said, "Why don't you stay and watch?" So the fire department of Popperville stayed to watch Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann. When they heard the fire engine, the children in the school across the street couldn't keep their eyes on their lessons. The teacher called a long recess and the whole school came out to watch. That made Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann still dig a little faster and a little better. They finished the second corner neat and square, but the sun was right up over the top of the sky. Now, the girl who answers the telephone called up the next towns of Bangerville and Bopperville and Kipperville and Copperville and told them what was happening in Popperville. All the people came to see if Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel could dig the cellar in just a day. The more people came, the faster Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann dug. But they would have to hurry. They were only halfway through and the sun was beginning to go down. Will they finish? Never had Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann had so many people to watch them. Never had they dug so fast and so well. And never had the sun seemed to go down so fast. "Hurry, Mike Mulligan, hurry, hurry," shouted the little boy. "There's not much more time." Dirt was flying everywhere, and the smoke and steam were so thick that the people could hardly see anything. But listen. Bang, bang, crash, slam, louder and louder, faster and faster. Look how fast she's digging. Wow, it's like a blur. Then suddenly, it was quiet. Slowly the dirt settled down. The smoke and steam cleared away, and there was the cellar, all finished. 4 corners, neat and square, 4 walls straight down, and Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann at the bottom. And the sun was just going down behind the hill. "Hooray!" shouted the people. "Hooray for Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel! They have dug the cellar in just one day." And then they are taking a bow inside the cellar, and people are looking down in it. Suddenly, the little boy said, "How are they going to get out?" "That's right," says Mrs. McGillicuddy to Henry B. Swap. "How is he going to get his steam shovel out?" Henry B. Swap didn't answer, but he smiled in a rather mean way, and then everybody said, "How are they going to get out? Hey, Mike Mulligan, how are you going to get your steam shovel out?" Mike Mulligan looked around at the 4 square walls, and 4 square corners, and he said, "We've dug so fast and so well that we've forgotten to leave a way out." Nothing like this had ever happened to Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann before, and they didn't know what to do. They're stuck in the basement, and she's so big, how are they going to get her out of there? Nothing like this had ever happened in Popperville. Everybody started talking at once, and everybody had a different idea, and everybody thought his idea was the best. They talked, and they talked, and they argued, and they fought, till they were worn out, and still no one knew how to get Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann out of the cellar they had dug. Then Henry B. Swap said, "The job isn't finished because Mary Ann is not out of the cellar, so Mike Mulligan won't get paid." And he smiled again in a rather mean way. Now, the little boy, who had been keeping very quiet, had another good idea. He said, "Why couldn't we leave Mary Ann in the cellar and build the new town hall above her? Let her be the furnace for the new town hall and let Mike Mulligan be the janitor. Then you wouldn't have to buy a new furnace, and we could pay Mike Mulligan for digging the cellar in just one day." Wow, that's a pretty good idea. "Why not?" said Henry B. Swap, and smiled in a way that was not quite so mean. "Why not?" said Mrs. McGillicuddy. "Why not?" said the town constable. "Why not?" said all the people. So they found a ladder and climbed down into the cellar to ask Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann. "Why not?" said Mike Mulligan. So he decided, and everybody was happy. Look, on her crane it says, Mary Ann. And she does look happy. They built the new town hall right over Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann. It was finished before winter. Every day the little boy goes over to see Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann, and Mrs. McGillicuddy takes him nice hot apple pies. As for Henry B. Swap, he spends most of his time in the cellar of the new town hall, listening to the stories that Mike Mulligan has to tell, and smiling in a way that isn't mean at all. And there they are. Now, when you go to Popperville, be sure to go down to the cellar of the new town hall. There they'll be, Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann, Mike in his rocking chair smoking his pipe, and Mary Ann beside him warming up the meetings in the new town hall. And look at that, they've got all the pipes now coming off of Mary Ann to heat the whole building, and she is the furnace. And that is the end of the story. So Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann found something new to do when nobody wanted them anymore. So it's pretty good. Almost like a recycling story, I think, right? All right, everybody. Enjoy your day. See you soon.